and welcome to the Divorced Women's Guide podcast, where we talk about the things us divorcees are thinking, but not always talking about, as we turn our divorce into the best gift we've ever been given. And I do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. I am your host, Wendy Sterling, founder of the Divorce Rehab. I am here to support you in this transition phase of your life so you can start your new best chapter on your own terms. After all, that's what I did after my own divorce. And now it is my mission to change the conversation around divorce and help you see why your divorce, like mine, was the best gift you ever received. Hello, and welcome to my first episode of the Divorced Women's Guide podcast. This is truly a dream come true for me, and I still can't believe that it's happening. I'm so happy you've tuned in and have decided to join me today. I also believe the universe brought you here to me and my podcast, or perhaps you heard me promoting it. Well, regardless, I'm so grateful that you are here. No one should have to go through their divorce alone. After all, that is what I did, and I'm determined to make sure that doesn't happen for you. You see, I didn't see my divorce coming. In fact, I describe it as a 2x4 that smacked me upside the head quite unexpectedly. And I was so filled with shame and anger and sadness that I completely withdrew. And I tried to manage my emotions alone. After all, none of my married friends understood what I was going through. And every time I spoke with them, they were trying to convince me how much better off I was or how it was his loss. Unfortunately, I didn't see it that way at the time. All I wanted to do was hide and tell my brain to stop living in the past. And I just wanted one day to wake up without crying. You know, the simple things. Well, it took a lot of hard work to get to where I am today. But the good news is I'm here to share my insight with you after all that I've been through. I want to be someone who inspires you, gives you hope and real life nuggets of information that will help you navigate your path more easily through divorce. You see, I live these tools. I'm not just telling them to you. And I will show you through my own methods that I used how to apply them to your life. And I know the feeling when something isn't right and you don't know where to start to fix it. Or perhaps what you are trying or what you've tried in the past didn't work or it's not working fast enough. Well, my vision in this life is to support you, to help you get unstuck, to help you silence those negative voices in your head, and to receive proven tips and tools that I know work so that you feel supported on your path to the other side of divorce. And my mission with this podcast is to show you how your divorce is a gift. So my ask of you while you tune in is to listen with an open mind and an open heart and be willing to get out of your comfort zone, to meet yourself where you are at with compassion, self-love, and kindness, and with no judgment, and be open to the possibility of change. And I know that that can be a really scary word for some of you, but change doesn't have to be big in order for you to feel its impact on your life. I promise you. Every little step you take creates a bigger leap forward. And it will lead to what I believe are really large rewards. Just imagine if listening to one of my episodes shifts your trajectory forward, even just 1%. Wouldn't that be better than where you are in this moment? I sure think so. And it is okay to not know what that means or looks like yet. It takes trust in both you and me. And I believe in you and know you can do this. And the reason I know is because I was you. I was stuck. But in time, I was able to get out of my story, to get out of the expectations I had for myself and into unknown, unfamiliar territory. And yeah, of course it was scary. But every single time I conquered a new fear about my future, I knew and felt that I grew and I was moving through the pain. And over time, I learned how to retrain my mind and let go of my limiting beliefs around what was possible. You see, your mindset is key and it's trainable to get stronger, just like any muscle in your body. We are strong enough to retrain ourselves to create new patterns and new habits. But guess what? You can't get there unless you're willing to be vulnerable and admit what conversations you are having with yourself inside of your head. And that is really what this podcast is all about. Talking about the things I know you're thinking, but are too afraid to say out loud until now. And I will do so with a little bit of sass and a whole lot of class. With each episode, I hope to teach you how to become more aware of your thoughts, how to start grabbing the wheel of your life and end being on autopilot, to be more present for yourself and for your kids, to end your storytelling by silencing those inner critic voices, to see that anything really is possible with even the slightest mindset shift. And as a divorce recovery specialist, writer, author, and speaker, as well as the founder of the Divorce Rehab, I work with divorced women all over the country who need a wake-up call to remember who they truly are and what they're capable of. And I do that by giving them a loving kick in the butt to boost their confidence and sense of self, while releasing and removing the guilt, anger, and fear of being single. Most of them have tried to do it on their own and it's not working, and yet they know they need help but are afraid to ask for it. And many times they don't even know where to find it. And in my experience, I've noticed that Facebook groups perpetuate your pity party. And it winds up being one person's story is better than the other. And that keeps you rooted in your past. And that's not a good place to be. You're craving to know who you are and to find and actually see your own reflection in the mirror again. So what I do is help you move through that pain and through the fears around your divorce more quickly than if you do it alone. And my clients receive guidance to step into their power of choice and to learn how to focus on themselves again. And to get there, you've got to end that pity party, mourn the loss of your marriage, mourn the loss of the future that you thought you were going to have, and move forward with dignity to see how much better life is afterwards. I give them the tools and the community that they need to be able to get there and hold them accountable for the results they desire every step of the way. And as a result, my clients wind up finding themselves again, learning who they are, and creating a beautiful life for themselves that they design. They're at peace. They have a renewed sense of energy. They feel so much more present and connected with their loved ones. And finally, gratitude is within grasp. They remember and feel what true joy is like as they are ready to embark on their next best chapter and actually set goals that are attainable, and I get to see them reach them. Because you see, I believe that divorce can be an empowering experience that women go through to find their true identity and voice, to design a life that they love instead of feeling stuck in the one that they have. And I often work with divorced women who struggle with so much noise around what is next, around who it is that they are and how they're just going to get through the next day. And they've typically lost a lot of hope and don't know when, at what point they're going to find joy or love or peace again. And how do I know? Well, because that was me just a few years ago. And I will never forget the day I was driving home with my husband at the time from a couple's night out. It was 11:45 at night and his phone rang 5 times from the same woman. And all of a sudden, I felt a punch in my gut that told me something was wrong. and tears started to stream down my face. And I started thinking, we had been in therapy for so many years, and something always didn't feel right to me. And for the first time, I decided to trust my instinct instead of looking outward like I had been taught to do my whole life. And so when we got home, I stood in my power and I confronted him. And what he denied until I provided proof for was that my gut was right. And even though we were working on our marriage for years, I kept dwelling on what wasn't working as well as our past, and nothing was shifting for either one of us. And eventually, I came to know that this just wasn't the right relationship for me anymore. And so one day in our couples therapist office, I took a stand for myself, looked into my husband's eyes, and said, "I'm done. I want a divorce." And as soon as I walked out of the office, I felt a combination of free, terrified, and completely empty. With tears welling up in my eyes, I got into my car and looked in the mirror. And when I did, I had no idea who the woman was staring back at me, at least not without him. You see, I lost my identity in my marriage because I never could recognize that reflection in the mirror. And I saw myself through his eyes. And it dawned on me that throughout my personal life, I had always been taught from when I was a little girl to listen, to not always speak, and to base who I was as well as my decisions off of what other people told me or expected of me. And here I was realizing for the first time in my 40 years of being in this world that I had duplicated and created that type of a relationship with my husband where I didn't know who I was outside of being his wife. And yet in corporate America, I knew exactly who I was. After all, I had a really successful 20-year career as a leader, mentor, and problem solver, working with some of the largest women's lifestyle brands in the world. I built businesses in new regions, led teams, and leveraged all the extensive connections I had built over the years to generate multi-millions of dollars in revenue for these corporations. I knew who I was at work and had no problem using my voice. Yet for some reason, I couldn't do it in my marriage. I knew there had to be something more. And I'll never forget the day where I was scrolling Facebook and saw a post from a friend who left her successful law practice and took a stand for herself to transition into becoming a career transition coach. And after reading her post, something inside of me clicked. And I knew that there was something more out in the world for me to still be discovered, to start initiating my true transformation that therapy hadn't yet enlightened me on. And I knew in my gut that I needed to speak with her, that this was something meant for me. So I quickly called her. And during our conversation, I realized that my path to healing was to focus on my future. And that is exactly what life coaching was all about. I knew that I needed to learn the tools that she learned so that I could not only coach myself through it, but potentially leverage it in my career. So I spent the next year learning from coaching experts on how to transform my own life. And while I was being trained as a coach, I was also coaching myself at the same time. And when I saw the changes it was making for me in my life, I decided that I needed to do something with this, that if it was possible for me to shift my mindset in a 2.5-day weekend, more so than I had the entire 8 months before, that this was something that not only I needed, but the world needed to know about. And so I decided to get certified as a life coach. And I had no idea that this kind of life or transformation was even possible. And I didn't even understand the type of joy and freedom that I was about to experience by reclaiming my own identity and voice. And I knew that if I took my 20 years of experience in corporate America as a leader and someone who had impacted so many other people's lives, and I combined it with the new coaching methodology I had just learned, that I would make a profound impact on the world and on women like me. I was so awakened and inspired that I knew that this was my calling. The universe was calling me forth to help other women, to bring this to other women, because not only did the tools help me, they helped me heal faster. And so now, as a divorce recovery specialist, I take all the tools I learned and synthesize them into helping other divorced women reclaim and rediscover their identity and voice so that they too can transform their life. And like me, realize that their divorce was happening for them, not to them. So many of us lose ourselves in our marriage. And I had no idea that that happened to me or that it was even possible to live any other way. But once I learned how to start reclaiming and creating a life for myself, to end my victim mindset and start healing my wounds, that I knew my dreams would come true. And once I accepted my new future, I started building a foundation for my new life that I knew in my gut would be the best one yet. And now, 3.5 years later, those steps that I took have now become my proprietary methodology that I impart on other women through my divorce rehab program. And don't get me wrong, I was terrified to make this leap of faith once I decided to leave corporate America. And especially when I was in the middle of my life and had 2 kids to raise. But I knew and trusted in myself that I would hold myself accountable and that I would hire a coach to also hold me accountable. And by being honest with myself and by having somebody to guide me and provide me with the tough love that I needed, I would get through anything. And boy, did I want it badly. At the time, I was scared, but I knew that if I took this big leap, that I would be able to breathe again. And I was able to breathe deeper than ever before. I finally felt empowered. I felt in charge of my life. I felt invincible. And I bet on a sure thing. And that sure thing was me. Healing women from divorce is what I do, and empowering them to reclaim their voice and identity to create their next best chapter is who I am. My plan with this podcast is to release a new episode every single week about a different topic. Any and all topics, actually, that will range across any stage or emotion that you're at. Whether you're in the stage of should I stay or should I go, whether you are thinking about filing or are about to file, if you're in the middle of your process or if you're on the other side. And just remember, I've been there, and I'm also very transparent about my own experience. I also love to share the insights I've learned to help you navigate your own path. And I am definitely open to hear what topics you want me to talk about. So feel free to message me, and you can find all my information in the show notes. You have my promise that I will bring my wit, my honesty, my humor, my boldness, and a heart full of love to provide you with tangible tips on each and every episode. And together, we get to smile, laugh, maybe cry, and trust that you can and will get through this as long as you have the right guide. And that guide is me. So thank you for listening to this week's episode. More to come next week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this episode with someone you know or spread the word on social media. This is how I reach more divorcees around the world and provide them with the support they need to create their next best life. And I would also love to continue the conversation with you. So please friend me on Facebook, join my private Facebook group, The Divorce Rehab, and follow me on Instagram at Divorce Rehab with Wendy. I'll see you next time.